Mackenzie house.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a home that you could think of as being sort of upper working class. So a tradesman, so in this case a clockmaker, operating out of his home. And there would have been a lot of repair work, mending and things like that, so that people could keep their clocks going. That one is over 200 years old. Yeah.
200 years old.
Yes, it's actually
Grandfather's clock.
Yes, it's probably about 230.
Wow.
Yeah.
More inside there.
So clocks became particularly important in the 19th century as trains started to operate and had to be on a schedule so that people could rely on getting to the places they were going, or their goods getting where they were going in the proper time. So clocks became more important for people to have at home and also in various businesses. So some benefit to a clockmaker than that, that was the case. And then we also have, there is a step here, but in the kitchen, yes, in the kitchen, the clockmaker's wife also has a business that she does kind of in between keeping house and raising her children. So she would have files to be done. The lady would bring the cloth that she wanted to have the dress made from. They would talk about the trim, how it would be ornamented, look at maybe fashion plates. And then there would be measurements taken so that the item could be fitted properly, and the dressmaker might cut and sew the entire garment, including all the trim, or she might potentially have just been involved in the early parts for ladies that wanted to save a bit of money by doing the hand stitching themselves. So she might have been using her sewing machine, which is hard to see back there, but one of the early sewing machines from the 1850s.
Oh, this is the
yes,
the room
table
the
there.
room table.
Yeah. So it's a treadle-powered sewing machine.
Oh,
so,
it goes rocks.
yes.
Yeah.
So that would make sewing go the straight seams very fast. So in a gown that is going to have, well, like this one, many panels,
Better candles, yeah.
and a hem, so doing all those straight stitches by machine meant that you didn't have to hand stitch those, and you can focus that effort on hand stitching the parts that needed that because they were complicated, tailored components. So anything that was going to be visible on a bodice, for example, all where all the trim would be attached, ribbons and so forth, those were all areas. Anywhere there was a significant join between a sleeve and the bodice, for example, that would all be things that would be hand stitched. So out of necessity, but the sewing machine would speed up all those really monotonous parts of the work. And most people would not have owned a sewing machine. It would be something that a professional would have, or someone who was quite wealthy.
They all did by hand.
Making
Yes.
clothes.
Yeah, the reality was that the cost of the cloth and the trim, the labor costs,
Yeah.
even of quite complicated dresses, was quite little. So she would have been doing a lot of work and not earning a huge amount of money, but probably enough to pay her children's school fees and that kind of thing. So
Winter time must have been.
around,
When
once there
did
was
you,
snow
like
on
for
the ground,
heat, I guess they just used firewood, right?
yeah, pretty much the whole system was powered by wood heat.
Yeah, that's right.
Very few, there were a few industrial uses for coal, but since we didn't actually have an easily available supply of coal in Ontario, it was too far to bring it from Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, And of course it had to be, if you came from the United States, from Pennsylvania, or Virginia, West Virginia, it had to be offloaded and transferred into new cars because of the railway gauge. So that made it more expensive to bring it up. But for some purposes, for foundries that were melting iron to make cast iron pots and things like that, to make the stove itself that would burn the wood.
Very good, very interesting.
Good job, buddy. Oh, we did it. We did it all together. Did it all together. That's great.
You were here.
No, Sanders. Sanders, no.
We're doing some work on the second floor. But now with things being closed at various points because of the COVID situation, they've been doing a lot of work to try and maintain the building. That is the back end of the hospital house.
There's a little steep, I don't know whether you... So the second floor is where the bedrooms are and the ballroom. We have the parlor here, so if you were staying the night, that would be where you could relax in the evening before you went up to bed. People mostly just slept in their bedrooms, and a hotel bedroom in particular didn't have a lot of amenities. And then this is the bar.
Bar.
The saloon.
So a lot of the money in a business like this came from selling the alcohol, not just to travelers, but to people in the local community. Men would come to have a drink and share news, maybe
Like
read the
cards and
newspaper. Yeah. Technically, it was illegal to bet, but wow.
For fun.
The inspector didn't usually make that many rounds in the course of things. Only if there was a complaint about it would they probably come and look into it. But it was not uncommon to see cards or checkers or maybe even Skittles, so it's a tabletop bowling game going on in a pub like this. And this would also be where people would buy larger amounts of alcohol to take home with them. So they could sell whiskey by the quart, for example. Bartender would have usually been a man. So someone, either the owner of the inn or a family member, son or whatever, would have attended the bar, and then there would have been someone in the stable as well. Looking after people's horses was an important part of this kind of business. So those would typically be men, and then there would have been a woman in the kitchen, which is at the back.